Production support for Hot and Cold is brought to you by American Solar Technics, manufacturers of components for wood burning and solar heating systems.
Hey, I'm Tom Gozy. Welcome to Hot and Cold. You know, it's getting cold out, and I feel like I'm running out of time. But we do have the house kind of buttoned up, and we're progressing slowly towards getting it even more buttoned up because the snow will come from the sky soon, and I want to be inside. So you stay with us. We'll show you what we're doing, and we'll be right back. Hey, here we are up on the gable end staging. Got the big ladder here, and I'm getting ready for roofers. And before the roofers can come and put on the metal roof, I need to do a couple of things. One is this edge of the roof is a little shy of where it's supposed to be, so I got to kind of build it out a bit. And before roofers do their thing, we have to have soffits, if we're having soffits, which we are. The house had soffits, we're building soffits back again. And a soffit is just a box at the outside edge of the roof here that you put all your trim on to make it look kind of nice, and also to keep weather away from this part of the house, so it tends to drip off the edge instead of dripping onto the house. And the old timers knew this, and we new timers kind of hopefully know it. We want it for the aesthetic reason as well. And what I'm doing on the gable end here is I've just got pretty much square pieces of 2x8 that I'm screwing into these purlins that were for the roof here. And that's pretty much it. And we're going to be using a cellular PVC. There's mosquitoes out today. Can you imagine? They're going to apply cellular PVC trim, which you'll see in another week or two, which will make the soffit up. And then the roofers will come, and then I'll continue with the rest of the trim antics. So we've got this on here. We have to, I've been running strings on the outside face and the bottom face to make sure everything's in the same plane. And can you believe it? I, being the one who has sheathed this building and put it back together, am finding that there's dips and weaves. So we have to pad some stuff out. We'll be shimming, and you find that in any house, especially in an old house, because it still technically is an old house. What we've done over here at the edge is I've screwed a piece of strapping on because I needed to know where the bottom edge of the soffit is, where it intersects with the front of the building. And this will be the equivalent to this piece here for the front and the back soffits. So this point here has to intersect with the bottom edge of that, and I think it does. It looked like it did. I had a level and I had string, and I was ciphering, and I think we got it right. So we'll find out when we go to put trim on. That's going to be so exciting. There's a lot of stuff that was on here that we have to put back the way it was. And one of the things I did early on, and I think is a great idea, is I took digital photos of all the trim details, of all the soffit details, so I have a good record, and I took measurements before we took everything off, so I know exactly what it was, and we'll put it back exactly the way it was with the new trim, and hopefully it'll all look as it did when we started this project, which was so long ago. I'm beginning to just get a headache thinking about that, or maybe it's the weather. Let me come down, and we'll there's a few other things I've done. Got tar paper on the roof. I don't think I had that on last time, or did I? I don't remember. You remember because you just saw the show last week. I am so confused. We got a blue tarp over that because it was hurricane season. It still kind of is. We've got strapping on the tarp just to try to make sure the tar paper doesn't blow off, and we have some protection for the wood underneath Seems to be working, and it was extremely windy down here yesterday, and the tarp is still here, so everybody loves that blue tarp too. Let me come down, I got other stuff to show you. Well, it's fungi season here, here on the coast of Maine as well, and this was growing underneath the bathtub, which just happens to be on the lawn, which is a sign to me that something bad has happened in the bathroom. Why don't we go inside and take a look? Well, with all the rainy weather we have this time of year, it is incumbent upon me to have to come inside to do work. And one of the things I've done is I have been whittling away at walls. We're in the bathroom, and you can see here that there ain't no wall between the stairs and the bathroom, which makes it kind of difficult if there's company, but there's never any company, so it's not a big deal. And we will get this put back together. What we've been doing is trying to clean up some details up here and also create more headroom on the stairs, which we've done because I've cut this back. Having done that, it means we need to shift the bathtub ahead a little bit. And we're going to cheat a little bit. I think we're going to use another built-in tub like what was here or what was like out on the lawn. And we may use a footed tub if I can find a good deal on a footed tub. I'm looking for an acrylic one, not a cast iron one, because it's lighter. And they have slopey backs. And what we're doing here is the wall is actually, the vertical wall will be here, and we're going to slope here. And we can do this both with a built-in, the built-in tub or a footed tub. And we're really kind of cheating because the wall, instead of being perpendicular with the floor, will slope from here up. And we'll build this up on under the tub side to try to give it a little more structure, although there's a beam right about here. So we're in good shape structurally. To some degree. We've taken out the wall that was here. We're going to rebuild all that. And in the process, I know you find this hard to believe, but I found rot in the floor. How could that be? I would find rot in this house anywhere. But right here, there was a wall here, and there's just water from the tub, I guess, dribbled down and did a nice job of rotting through the plywood that was put on to give a flatter surface for the vinyl, and through the first layer of the 2 layers of pine that were here. So we'll have to deal with that. What a surprise. I think we should take a break though before we go too far, because there's a lot of stuff in the bathroom here that I think I should show you. But if we take a quick break, we'll be right back. Trying to figure out what we're doing and how we're doing it is challenging in a space like this because it's an odd-shaped room. And I think we have a pretty good consensus. I'm going to probably leave something like this here, although this structure will probably go away and we'll do a new one. Before we had a shelf that was at this height alongside the bathtub. We're going to drop that down lower so it's easier to put stuff alongside the bathtub, depending on what kind of tub we're putting in. But we have a big issue, and the big issue is this: as with the whole second floor of the building, the floor is not level. It is actually fairly level over here, but it goes uphill at this point here and then drops down. And it goes down about 1.5 inches from here to here. And likewise, crossways. So the outer edge of the building is at a certain height, and then it all kind of bottoms out in the middle. So we need to level it up. And you can see here they did that here by building the toilet on its own little level platform. So I think it's level. It may be off a little bit. But we want to deal with this. We don't want to have this bump here. We want to put a tile floor in here. So I'm thinking we have 2 options. One is we can put in a gypsum floor. You know, where we remember a couple of years ago we leveled up the other bathroom we were doing at my house. We could put that kind of floor in here, and we could sneak some radiant heat in here as well if we want. And if there's tile floor, it might be kind of fun to put some radiant heat in. Or we could do it with wood. I haven't decided yet which way we'll go. I'm leaning towards the gypsum just because it's easy. There is enough structure under here that we can do that. So in the next week or 2, I will make that decision and we will proceed. I wasn't planning on tearing apart the bathroom this early, but the weather gave me the chance to do other things inside because I had to do something. And so many of my projects tied outdoors had to be, things had to be dry, and that hadn't happened. So I came in here with a saw and a crowbar and just started pulling stuff apart. So we're at this point, and it's sort of the point of no return. We will deal with it. The sink's going to go, and we're going to put a vanity in here. I think generally things will remain in the same location. One thing that's kind of interesting, I don't know why they did it, but it's here. Somebody put a piece of plywood on the wall, I guess just to give a nice square edge. They just took a 4x8 sheet of 1/2-inch plywood, stuck it on the wall, stuck some Formica over it, hung the sink back on. That's going away. We will do something a little more appropriate to the period of the house. Other than, you know, the plywood on the side of the wall with Formica over it is, I don't know what vintage it is, but it isn't right for here. And of course, there's a big gap down at the bottom, so I've taken out the baseboards as well. And when we level things up, or even if we didn't level things up, we put new baseboard in. Baseboard in this house was all kinds of little pieces put together, like over here. This was some original baseboard. I think we'll get something a little snazzier than that. But it pieced together. It just, you know, a lot of the short pieces that just butted together, because I think this was either a really inexpensive house, or it was a fisherman's house, or it was a camp, or it was, I was told it was a camp. So, you know, generally when camps are built, you scavenge stuff. You don't necessarily go buy the best stuff for doing your camp over, or building a camp. So that's where we are in the bathroom this week. One other thing I wanted to show you over here. There was a shelf here, a piece of pine, which I took off, and there was a shelf underneath it, which was a piece of pine. This is sitting on top of the ring beam that from the outside. And you see all these little black things? My cleaning helper didn't get them. Those are all dead carpenter ants. There was a big carpenter ant infestation on that ring beam outside here. Somehow they all died. Thank goodness for that. I think somebody probably sprayed something. And there were a lot of ant carcasses in the wall cavities. Very interesting, isn't it? Anyway, do we have anything? Yeah, let's go in the other room. We got a couple things to look at in there. I've been busy picking. It's been raining too much. Well, this is the other room on the other end of the upstairs, and a couple things happened in here. There was a drop ceiling, you know, the 1-foot square acoustic ceiling tiles that were stapled up to strapping. I took the ceiling tiles down because they were falling down anyhow around the chimney, and as I took them down, I could see there was all mold and mildew on the backside, so I took the whole ceiling down. While I was at it, I took down the strapping that they were stapled to as well, because the strapping really wasn't level. It just kind of followed the ceiling, which is kind of going up in this direction. So what we're going to do here, really for the whole second floor, all the ceilings, is put center bead pine up, and that'll give a nice cottage look to it, be nice and clean. We will level it up pretty much. We have to try to skirt the edges a little bit because some of this is a little too weird, and headroom isn't too much. Something interesting I came across when I took that ceiling down is I see here what looks like an old wall that went this way and this way, which would have made these very small rooms. I'm not quite sure what was going on up here, but it looks like that was a wall. It's the width of a 2x4. Anyway, detective stuff. And one other thing, this wall here was the other gable end wall that I cut and fit foam into, and I had set the outlet boxes in. And they were up against the plaster, which is a little wobbly anyhow because of all the ripping and thrashing. And I found that they were a little bit loose. So what I've done with these boxes is where I could squeeze it in, I got some spray foam and just went around the edges and injected foam to make those boxes very solid. I've done it there, and I've done it over here too, and it looks kind of funky. But you know, this just snaps right off, and we can just, that wasn't holding anything, that was just a boo-boo on my part. But you can just clean that right up and fill it in with some joint compound or plaster it. I'm not sure. We may wind up just replastering these walls. And that is very solid now. Before it was just sloppy as all get out. It was loose. And so if you have work you're doing in an old house, now you can use canned foam to as an adhesive to hold it in place, let it cure for at least an hour before you do any work, preferably overnight. I did it and came back a day or two later and it was in great shape. Don't get the foam inside the box. It isn't necessarily an issue. It is flammable. We want to keep it outside the box if you can avoid it. If you get it in the box, shut off the power and just root it out with something. But it doesn't go in the box unless you put it in there. And it does a good job, so it makes things nice and solid. Hide that up there, nobody will know it's there. We'd be in good shape. We've got a project we're going to do. I want to show you from the inside here, these windows. We've done the penetration with ice and water shield on the outside, and it comes all the way inside here. So it will hold any moisture and keep it away from the wood if there were any leaks around these windows or doors. And I think we're going to take a break, and when we come back, maybe we'll do a door. That would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Sure it would be. Okay, well, this door had been in for about 2 or 3 months, temporarily, quote unquote, and this seems like a great day to deal with it. Now, we know the opening is right because I had a door in here, but if you're framing up, you need to either measure. It tells you on the side of the door here what the door size is. The door is 36 by 80, but the rough opening, 38¼ by 82. That's what these dimensions on the outside here should be, and they are. So you have a lot of wiggle room for getting the door to fit in the opening properly. If it's too tight, it ain't going to go in and you have to take things apart and rebuild it. So it's very important. Pay attention to rough opening. People who do this for a living know what I'm talking about. People who are do-it-yourselfers, now you know. Now, I talked about putting ice and water shield from out here. You can see it on that door over there, around to the inside. There was none here. This is pressure treated here. Look at this. This is wet. Wind-driven rain, which we had yesterday. We had big-time wind-driven rain yesterday, has blown in and got the pressure treated wet. And if this was regular wood, and there's regular wood on the side here, and it's a little bit damp, that's going to rot, and we're going to have a problem around this door. And that's what was going on before on this whole wall, because the ocean is out over there. All the wind-driven rain is coming in this direction. So we want to make sure that we treat the opening right. So first thing we need to do is get some ice and water shield cut up, and I'll show you how that goes on. Well, of course, the next thing we need is the ice and water shield to put it in the opening. This is ice and water shield. It comes in a roll, has a release paper. You'll see how that works in a minute. And we need to cut it. And I want pieces that are 2 feet wide. And this is we have 6-inch piece increments here marked. So I can just put my straight edge on it, and with a razor knife. That's 3 feet wide, so there's one piece. I figure we need, what, at least 5 pieces. Now, this is the tricky part. I'm always doing this by myself, and of course the wind picks up as soon as I start. So it becomes a bit of a challenge, because this will stick to itself and stick to everything else. I usually try to use this inside edge as my starting point. And if you're accomplished working with Scotch tape or any kind of tape, you will be accomplished working with ice and water shield. Got to make sure everything is flat on the outside. I got a little foam out here. We need to just make sure that's gone. And all we do is pull the release paper off and try not to let it stick to itself. There's one piece already. I've got a stapler here. What I do is I just staple the edges, so I let gravity do its thing, and we just keep going like that. We need to overlap it by a couple inches, which I just did, and we'll bring that around. There's a block of wood there I forgot to take off. I stopped just short of that. And we'll cut that and just roll it back. where it sticks to itself and sticks to everything else. We're in pretty good shape. Now we're almost done. We need to take a break here. I'm going to cut a little piece for here and get the bottom piece in. Then we can drop the door back in. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Okay. Now all we have to do is put the door in. Now you see what I've done here. I've completely made a hopefully watertight enclosure around the whole door. And the top is not as critical as the bottom. The bottom is very critical. We just took this door out. We had wind-driven rain yesterday. Where was it wet? It was wet right here. Now some companies are actually making aluminum pans that sit at the bottom so it sheds water. This is weather stripping, drip edge type stuff, and it does perform a very, very valuable function. It will keep your house from rotting away. We talk about it a lot. We don't talk about it enough. Well, I think the easier way to do this is to do it from the outside and bring it in that way. And she's a little snug. There we go. The ice and water shield has some thickness to it, so it tends to make the opening a little bit snugger. And of course, it's a little tacky too. Not unlike me. We have plenty of room on this side, so let's wiggle that over a little bit. And somebody had foamed the top of the door once before. So, okay, so now what we want to do is we want to try to center the door in the opening. We have about a 1/4 inch on this side. We have a little more than that on the other side, so I'm just going to slide it over that way a little. And I have shingles. Of course, shingles are tapered. If you put them with the tapers reversed, we can actually shim the door. So I'm going to go this way for now and just shim it in one direction. This one I can go in 2 directions, so I'll put that one in there like so. It's going to go back just a bit. I think we can go in. Yeah, there we go. And I'll get a couple more shingles, and we'll just shim it in place, and then we'll just see where we're at in terms of opening and closing from the inside. Okay, so we've checked with the level to make sure everything is level. And it is, and on the inside, I'll show you in a minute, I've checked everything, and the door opens and closes fairly well. So what I want to do now, before I go any further, is get a couple of screws in here just to hold it, because my helper inside has other things to do, and these are just temporary, but they keep the door from falling down, and that's kind of important. There was a screw here before, so we'll put another one. I want to make sure we're in the right plane with the outside of the building, and we are. And we're hitting here, so we know we've got to play with these shims a little bit. Let's step inside real quick. We're almost out of time, but we almost got the door done. So we've got to fix that. That's not right. Let's go inside, quick, quick, quick. Okay, so this is binding a little bit here, but we have 2 shingles. What we're going to do, just pull them apart a little bit and let that just get closer to where it's supposed to be. And now it closes perfect. Now, what we look for, we're not done yet because obviously I haven't screwed everything where it's supposed to be. We're looking for this joint here where the door and the frame are. And that gap in between is called the reveal. And we want to look for 2 things. We want to look to see that that's uniform. We want to make sure there's no daylight coming through. And if there is, we need to jockey the frame around and the door to make sure everything comes together right. After we're done with that, we open the door up, and I put screws in here on this inside part as well. This outside one I'll leave, and I'll cover that up. The inside places where I usually put the screws, because that's not going to be accessible from the outside, because some nefarious thief could come in with a screw gun and take the screws out, take your door out. I mean, somebody wants to really break in, they can, but fasteners, excuse me, normally are where we can't access them. So anyway, that's just about done. And then I'm looking for my cans of foam. we would take canned foam and foam this crack very carefully. Foam can expand and push the opening and bind the door, so that happens with windows and doors. We have to be very careful about, I'm looking around, see if I have any over there, I don't. Especially if it's closed on the outside. I have no trim on the outside, so the foam will expand either way out into the room here and to the outside right now, and will probably not bind it, so I don't have to be too careful about it. But you do need to be careful about these things. We are out of time. I don't know where it went. We just are having so much fun getting ready for winter. Getting ready for winter is so much fun, isn't it, after all? We got to go. You'll see we're at the end of the show. If you want to give us a call, by the time you see this, it might be snowing. Oh, man, I don't like this anymore.
Production support for Hot and Cold is brought to you by American Solar Technics, manufacturers of components for wood burning and solar heating systems.